abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer.
Good evening once again, folks, and welcome to Doctor on Call, our usual or regular Tuesday evening program at this time. We welcome our viewers of GBN Television 711, the GBN Facebook page, and also the GBN YouTube channel. This evening we have two wonderful ladies with us, very special guests indeed. Of course, my regular, I like to refer to her as my co-host for Doctorate Call, Dr. Sonia Nixon. She's with me this evening, and joining us this evening, Miss Lydia Browne, and she's the Executive Secretary of the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. Ladies, good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening and thank you. Good evening to everyone on all the platforms. It's nice to be here after this wonderful break.
All right. Now you got to make up for that, huh? So I just might pull you in on some of the other programs during the week to make up for the time you've missed out. All right. So, all right. And of course, Ms. Browne, we're extremely happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
The fact that you're here, I'm sure I'm going to get some wonderful tips to add a few more years to my life. Yes?
Let's hope so.
Wonderful indeed. So, folks, this week it is Salt Awareness, and when it comes to health, that's something we need to pay very close attention to. And a little later on, we also want to touch on childhood obesity, another emerging problem we're having here in Grenada. So we're going to start with the issue of salt awareness. And we know that salt is needed in our body for fluid balance. But if you have too much salt, now that's a problem. And if you don't have enough salt, that could also be a little issue. So we need balance, like in everything else. So I think I'm going to engage Ms. Browne first of all. I'm going to leave Doc for last. Ms. Browne, salt awareness. We love salt. We love salt. We love our French fries. We love our snacks. We love all the wonderful things. When we're eating at home, we have our little gadget or bottle with salt that we add a little, even though we'd have added salt in the preparation. We add salt. Let's talk about this, because we need salt. We need some. But we can't have too much, and we should not take in not enough. So let's talk about the balance here. Let's talk a little bit about salt.
Okay. Well, first, let me start by saying I think it would be very difficult for us not to take in sufficient, because there are so many foods that naturally contain not salt but sodium.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So sodium is actually a part of salt. And that's the mineral that we're actually concerned about most so. Now, when we grow our foods in the ground provide nourishment to the roots that we eat, the yams, the sweet potatoes, the carrots. And so those foods will naturally have some level of sodium to them, but not a significant amount that it can be detrimental to our health. But sometimes we add things to our foods, and because it doesn't taste salty, we add more of other things so that we can get that salty flavor. But some of the flavorings that we put into the foods has a lot of sodium but may not necessarily taste salty, because of the combination of the different minerals that are mixed into that particular seasoning or food flavoring. And so I think it's important not just the salt that we put in food, but that we are able to recognize other sources of salt or sodium in the diet. So we buy bread from the bakeries, that's salt. We put some cheese on the bread, that's salt. We buy some type of processed meat like a salami or luncheon meat or something, that's salt. But then we fix it by adding some ketchup to it, that's more salt. So it's just a matter of us, I think, getting to recognize where the salt or sodium in our diets are coming from. And so that we're able, because no one is saying don't have any salt. And I want to make that clear. No one is saying don't have any salt. What we're saying is that we need to control or reduce the amount of salt that we're taking into our diets because of the detrimental effects that it's having on us. Well, worldwide, but particularly us, we're concentrating on us here in Grenada. And the epidemiology data is actually supporting what we are advocating, that people need to lower their salt intake so that we can have better health outcomes.
Wonderful. Now, you said that with all that we do, there is sodium. So it's important for us to identify it. How do we do that? Because, I mean, look, it's natural. We like that salty taste, because if we don't get that taste, the food ain't tasting right. Something ain't right. So we need to fix it. How do we identify that?
Well, I'm going to talk about identifying it in a minute, but let me take you up on something you just said. We love that salty taste, and the food just won't taste right. Now, the taste, we acquire a taste for salt. We're not born with a taste for salt, just like we're not born with a taste for sugar. This is something that is acquired. And so we can turn back that clock, we can turn back that hand of time and reacclimate our taste buds to not using so much salt. Now, we pride ourselves in being the spice isle, the island that's full of all the spices and all the herbs, and our soils are so rich that we're able to grow just about everything. But yet, when it comes to flavoring our foods, we turn a lot to the things that are being imported, that are loaded with salt and so. So a lot of these foods that are imported have a label, a food label on it. But how many of us actually look at the food label? And if we look at the food label, do we understand what the food label is saying to us? So the label, it gives us the sodium content, and it tells us how much of that particular food is giving us that amount of sodium. And it's whatever one serving on that packet is. So we can choose some of our dry soup packets that if you use the entire packet, you're already exceeded 2,300 milligrams of sodium, which is what is recommended in a day. And we talk about salt, but it's not, and we say 2,300 milligrams is about a teaspoon of salt. But that's the
teaspoon. A level teaspoon.
Exactly, but that is just a teaspoon of salt, but all the other things that you're adding to the food is included in that 2,300 milligrams. It's not the 2,300 milligrams teaspoon plus
ketchup,
the other things that we're putting in. So an easy way for people to really recognize when a food may have a lot of salt in it is looking at the label, looking at the sodium, and then there's a percentage. It says percentage DV, which is the daily value, and it gives you 5%, 10%, 12%. And a rule of thumb is if the food has 20% or more to whatever one serving of that food is, it's considered a high sodium food. If it has 5% or lower, then it's considered a low sodium food. So that's a very easy way to identify. And then when you look at the one serving, you have to ask yourself, how many servings do I actually consume in a sitting? So if that food has 5% and you say, okay, that's a good, that's a good level of sodium, but you're eating 5 servings of that particular food, now you are no longer at 5%. So you're now at 25% because you ate 5 of that 5% servings.
Okay.
Right? So it's just an easy way and a quick rule of thumb for people. 20% high, 5% or less low. And anything in between, of course, would be moderate.
So let me ask this now, and I am with you, but when we taking a lot of salt, I mean, we know sometimes you start feeling thirsty, the mouth starts feeling dry, and then the body starts telling you, look, I need water. So you drink a couple of glasses of water to regulate that, to sort of regulate that salty taste. Wouldn't that help to regulate the salt intake, or salt intake is salt intake?
Salt intake is salt intake. The salt is going to cause you to want to drink, but your kidneys actually has to do a lot of work to try to regulate the sodium, and that's probably why your body is calling for the water, because your kidneys really need help to take that out. If your body is not able,
to eliminate.
To eliminate, that's right, to eliminate and to get rid of the excess so that it can create a balance, right? So you taking in that water does not negate the fact that you just ate more sodium than you should take in, because if there's any kind of defect in your body at all, and most of us don't know, we may have defects that we don't know, that our bodies are just not regulating the way it should, and we're not sure when we're going to run into some difficulty, when we're going to have a high blood pressure. Do we know that we have high blood pressure? Most people don't until they have some severe illness or something. They happen to go to a health fair, or they happen to go to the doctor and find out that their blood pressure is very high. But the sodium and salt they've been eating over the years would have contributed to that. And now you have a medical diagnosis. So you're going from a nutrition diagnosis of too much salt consumption to now you're on a medical diagnosis to high blood pressure, which can escalate the many problems down the line.
Now, Ms. Browne, you've set it up so nicely for me. So now I'm forced to go to Dr. Nixon. Doc,
don't hurt. Maybe you need me next week.
Doc, Ms. Browne just spoke about what can happen, and she's so correct, because a lot of times many individuals only get to realize that they're probably hypertensive if they probably start feeling sick, you feel dizzy, you get a pain, and you don't know why. You go to a doctor, and lo and behold, you're hypertensive, and so you have to go on medication. Salt, the culprit. Let's talk about that from medical.
I want to go back a little before about the uses of salt, because Mrs. Browne explained to you where we get salt from. The other reason is, why is there salt? Why is salt part of our life? So before, when there was fridge, there was corning your meat to preserve it. So remember that salt, she spoke, I think in her first sentences, about the flavor of salt. And we even talk about the flavor of salt in the Bible. If we take off the flavor, salt has its role. And if you were to do, the doctor might send you to do your kidney function tests, for example, right? And one of the components is salt and chloride, and they go together. Sodium chloride makes common salt that we eat. There is a limit. So let's say your reading is 139. Your doctor might say, oh, you're okay. How can you mean that you're okay? Simply because there's a limit, and that's what she's telling you. Why do we need salt? We need salt because it gives a muscle, it increases muscle tone, it helps contraction, it helps relaxation of the muscle, it makes your heart function, it makes a lot of things happen, okay? So, sometimes you hear people say they're running and they get cramps. You run, you exercise, you sweat a lot. Sweat don't taste like water, does it? Sweat is sweat, there's salt. You actually taste the sodium chloride and you lose it. By the end of the evening, you start having cramps, simply because your muscle is not relaxing and contracting with the normal way that they are when you get pain. Drink you have something with a little salt, and that comes back. So it has its role, and that's what we need to understand. Our challenge comes when we start taking excesses of salt. I'm going to give you a scenario, and Mrs. Browne will talk about today, and that is tolerance. So we in Grenada eat a lot of salt, and I ask you, what you put in your oil down? Because that is probably one of our biggest culprits. We eat a lot of saltfish and saltfish sauce, right? And if you wash out all the salt out of the saltfish, your grandmother won't cause that you take out the salt. She don't eat it. She could eat a pig alone because you take out the flavor in the salt, right? Now, we eat a lot of, if you're going to cook a pot of oil down, people put salt, meat, some chicken back, so pigtail, pig snout, and salt beef if they get all three. Okay? And then they still add whatever salt, fish, and smoke in. That's us. That's how we live. That's just culturally what happens. Okay? Or any permutation of the 5 mentioned. Alright? And they might have their own corn pork at home and their own corn this and corn manicure and whatever it is. So we do have a lot of salt in what we eat. The challenge in Grenada is that I think, and a lot of us think, is that we've had a very high salt tolerance because we are so accustomed to eating all of that salty food. Standing in the line to get my oil down at oil down day, and I normally don't consume a lot of salt. And I get oil down a little further from the top of the pot than the person who followed me. And both of us dipped into a bowl at the same time while we're waiting for a drink to taste the oil down. And she says, and we say simultaneously, but she says, "Only put no salt in the pot, man." And I said, "Only put some salt in the pot." The very same pot. Okay? And I'm not judging, I'm just saying we have different levels of tolerance, and we have, in fact, become accustomed, because I've been other places where people say, "Hey, what happened here? Are you not no salt?" And I'm cussing about the amount of salt. So we've gotten accustomed to eating a lot of salt. And if we cut back, it will change. Because if you start cutting back on the salt, I'm not telling you to eat salt today and salt less tomorrow. That's not practical. Okay? On top of it, you do need to look at flavor, and you do need to look at salt in your system. What I'm saying is that we need to come back a little. If you go back and you stop eating salt, the day somebody put a little extra salt in the pot, you cannot consume it.
That's right.
It becomes an irritant because you now have taken your body to a different level of tolerance for the sodium. So we understand why there's sodium in our diet, but we do understand if you go to the industries that produce whatever the source of salt is, okay, cheese, corned meats, sausages, bread, whatever it is, crackers, simple crackers. There's a cracker that we eat a lot here. People drink it with their tea. And I'm like, why is this thing so salty? And it's a brand that we've been having for 70 years. That's as old as the brand is. But they're very, really very salty, and we don't know because we're so accustomed. You buy bread. If you ask your baker how much salt he puts to a bag of flour, I'm sure most of them can't understand. They fling salt in there until it tastes, right? And it means that maybe our population can't take. What has happened to us? This salt remains within the walls of your blood vessels and makes them hard. And when, a hard tube will have a lot of resistance to what's in it, and your blood pressure is elevated in your arteries, okay? If you harden the walls of the arteries, it means that the pressure inside of it, because the fluid has to exert more pressure on its own to get through these blood vessels. We therefore have high blood pressure. So the fact that your mother has high blood pressure and your father has high blood pressure, it gives you a 75% chance of having high blood pressure, but you don't have to.
Right.
Because you can control the factors that lead to you having high blood pressure. Of course, your cholesterol, you're going to have to work on that, but also the salt that we consume. Why are we concerned now more than ever? We're concerned now more than ever because, as Mrs. Browne said in the beginning, the epidemiology, the science, where we look at the numbers, how things affect populations, how diseases appear in populations, is showing us that our children are consuming a lot of salt. We know that, one. Everybody likes that place with the fried chicken that you buy on the street. And if you go out and there are vendors in a street event, everybody goes for chicken and chips. Am I right? Wings and chips, whatever they are. We want the salty. Barbecue, pigtail, you name it. We eat a lot of salt. And then, of course, you talk about the ketchup, which has a lot of salt and a lot of sugar. But we've seen that our children are having hypertension much earlier. That is where the challenge is, that our children in particular, right? They are the ones who consume a lot of the fast foods. You buy your children snacks in bags. And when you finish eat, your hand is full of salt and there's still another teaspoon of salt inside of the bag. But salt, the more salt you eat, the more salt you want to eat. It makes it nice. If you take the salt out of the ocean, if you take the flavor from salt, it's useless. Salt has a nice flavor, but we have to teach our population that you only need to eat so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Doc, I tell you what, we need to take our first commercial break. Let's do that, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this. So stay with us. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
Valley Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Synatogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
Back in 2018, I ran into some conflict with the law, which led me to being in a rehabilitation center. While I was there in the beginning, I thought all hope was lost. But then I found myself being engaged in a lot of rehabilitation programs and skill-based activities, making better use of my time, and then I started getting back some hope and began moving forward. Before I got into the rehabilitation center, I had some issues. I used to pray for something better in my life, and something better has come. Maybe not in the best way expected, but my life has changed for the better. In the rehabilitation center, I learned a lot of things that I use in my life today, like barbering and business skills. Today I am looking forward to being an independent barber, using my business skills while I continue to do skills training. We all deserve a chance for change.
Give our children a chance for change through diversion, rehabilitation, and reintegration. This message is brought to you by the USAID OECS Juvenile Justice Reform Project 2, funded by the United States Agency for International Development. For more information, log on to oecs.org/JJRP.
Sissons truly cares about your paint job. We give you the results you wish for. Sissons understands your needs and responds to it.
Get the finish you want with quality that is unmatched. Nothing compares to Sissons paint.
No matter your need at home or on that industrial project,
Sissons has the perfect color solution for you.
Sissons paints for good looks that last. Available at all major hardware retailers island-wide.
How going on, boy?
Hey, good old things.
Hey, Daisy.
Yeah.
Boy, in line, boy. Your house looking a real good day.
Boy, it's thanks to the hard-working and professional staff at the Housing Authority of Grenada. They handled me real nice. They did my plan, they did the construction, and I didn't even have to worry about a thing. They were there with me every step of the way, supervising the job, asking me about my concerns, giving me feedback as the house took shape. They were there from start to finish, and even put the keys in the palm of my hand. I give them an A++ for customer service.
Oh, it's people from housing bad, boy.
Boy, boy, not bad. Excellent. If you're thinking about constructing your home, why not consult the Housing Authority of Grenada? You could visit them right down in the Sandino complex or give them a call, 440-1015 or 440-1016. Or check out their website, hag473.com. They go handle you. They go jog your blocks, they go draw your plan, they go tote your materials. Hey man, where you going? The Housing Authority of Grenada is your choice for affordable housing and a stress-free construction experience.
We support you at every stage of your life.
For business,
For your education.
For your financial freedom.
For that new ride.
Upgrade your life with the Communal. Contact us today.
Welcome back, folks. It's Doctor and Call, and it's Salt Awareness. And those of you just joining us, Dr. Nixon's with us, and also we have Mrs. Lydia Browne. She's the Executive Secretary of the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. So, Mrs. Browne, I'm going to come back to you. So we understand now the dangers of consuming too much salt. It is a given. I think we understand that very well. So I am on a high salt diet. I like my barbecue. I like my Zumas. I like my corn curls. I like my whatever it is, all the salty stuff. And I'm listening to the program now and I'm getting worried. I'm wondering if I'm harming myself. What do I need to do? I need to start from tonight. What do I do? How do I get away from that high salt diet and start adding some more years to my life?
Well, one of the first things you can do, which may be the easiest thing to do, is to start cutting the portions of the salty foods that you know you're eating. That may be easier to do than to say, remove the food from your diet. Mm-hmm. Although there are some foods that I particularly think like or some of our canned meats and some of our processed meats, bacon and things like that, that we really can kind of eliminate from the diet. But I would say to start by reducing it. Also, we can start by looking for alternatives. So we have a lot of different spices, a lot of different, explore ginger and we have bay leaf and we have cinnamon we can put in things. We have clove. Clove is something that I think is probably underutilized. We have mace. We have a lot of different spices that we can use. We have our seasoning peppers, local seasoning peppers that's to die for. Just the aroma from it will have you salivating. I think we need to utilize a lot more, explore a lot more using these spices in our cooking. Trying to prepare more of our own meals. And if that is a difficult task for you to take on, then the vendors that you're purchasing from, advocate for your own health by asking them to cut back on the salt. I have certain, I wouldn't say not a street vendor, but restaurants that some people would tell me when I see them for counseling, that they go to particular places because of the saltiness. And these are people who are already affected by high salt consumption. So we have to find ways to either prepare our own meals, advocate for what the things that we want, speak to our supermarkets and let them know that, yes, this is what we usually buy, but can you see if there are other options, things that are lower in sodium that you can bring in so that we have a choice? Because now we are educated, and it's nothing better than an educated consumer. So you know what you're looking for. You know how to look at your labels and compare the usual brand with another brand that you probably have never even looked at and see which one has lower sodium, if sodium is the thing that you want to look out for, right? And this is what we're speaking about tonight, lower in salt and sodium, okay? Making sure that we eat a lot of our local fresh fruits and vegetables that are rich in potassium. The good thing for us here is that a lot of our ground provision foods and our green bananas and so are also rich in potassium. So when we lower sodium in the diet, but we boost the potassium in the diet, the body tends to bring down, it relaxes. The potassium helps to relax those blood vessels that Dr. Nixon just spoke about, and it also helps to allow some of the salt to go off the body, and so the blood pressure tends to come down. So right now we have tamarind on the market, but we don't have to necessarily add sugar to it and make juice with it. We can suck our tamarind. You know, we all grew up taking tamarinds off of people's trees, and that was our snack because you didn't have a lot of money to spend, right? So now buy the tamarinds and use it so that you can get the potassium. We have oranges, we have grapefruits that are coming in now. We have some people that are on medication for blood pressure, and we have to be cautious with some of the with the grapefruit. We have a lot of different fruits and vegetables, callaloo and a lot of our green vegetables. And so pumpkin, we have pumpkin galore now on the market. These are foods that are very rich in potassium. Of course, there are some people who are on restricted diets that they cannot consume all that potassium. But we're talking about persons who are trying to lower, who are already affected and trying to lower their blood pressure and prevent other complications from coming on. So these are some of the things that we can do. Load up on our fruits and vegetables, eat our local provisions. Rice it's tasty and we like it, but it doesn't have a lot of potassium in it, and we want the potassium. So let's use our locally grown foods because we will get a lot of the nutrition, a lot of the nourishment that we need to help us to be able to balance and keep us in better health.
What about our meats?
Our meats. Well, our meats do have potassium in it, but our preparation methods are probably more so the concern. And it's not just the meat in itself, but the additives, the things that we add to the meat, right? So, for instance, if you're making a meal and you're cooking, people usually say chicken and fish. So let's go with beef. You're cooking some beef, and you're cooking some provision, and you're cooking some vegetable. You don't need to put salt to every dish that is being prepared, because you know when you cook that beef, you're going to use the gravy from the beef and you're going to put it on your food, and that gravy may already have a good bit of sodium in it. So then why boil the provision with a lot of salt, and you're preparing, steaming some vegetables and some nice pumpkin that gives you that natural sweet. We always gravitate towards sweet, but now we have some pumpkin that's giving us some natural sweet. We put in some salt on it. You see that? So we go for the sweet things, but when we have it naturally, we're making it salt. So why not just steam the pumpkin and let the natural flavors come out of it? Butternut squash, things like that. Sprinkle a little cinnamon, put a nice little bit of oil on it, push it in the oven, cut it in half, you push it in the oven, you bake it, you have a nice piece of butternut squash to eat. You don't have to put salt on it, right? Some of us like a little spicy. You can put a little pepper on it to give you that, that extra zing. But as I say, it takes a little time for you to adjust, for you to cut back, but it just takes one step at a time. One step at a time, and you have to set small goals for yourself so that they're attainable. If you say that I'm not using anything from tomorrow, because you say you're starting now, right? So you're not anything. Then you kind of get frustrated because you have not really, your taste buds have not really gotten adjusted yet. So give it time to adjust. But today is a good time to start. Well, tonight it's kind of late, but tomorrow morning is a good time to start and start tapering it back from day to day and actually pay attention. Pay attention to what you're doing. We use ketchup. None of us, it tells you a measurement. None of us take a spoon and measure. We squeeze, and if it's a big open mouth bottle, we pour, and then it's too much, and we're not really bothered by it because we love the taste of ketchup, right? So we have to be a little more mindful in what we're doing in food preparation, in consuming, and advocating to our vendors, reading our labels, and starting to prepare more of our meals at home so we have control.
Wonderful. Now, Doc, let me come to you now. I mean, and Mrs. Browne has really laid it out for us. And maybe there's some of us at home who's saying, boy, you know, Mrs. Browne, right, you know, but I mean, I had to get out something, you know, they need the flavor. Dr. Nixon, let us put into perspective the dangers of that. We know about hypertension, but what are some of the other health issues that can result, one, from the use of salt, so and the common thing is the hypertension. And let's talk about some extensions from that so we can understand how serious this issue really is.
So we've spoken about hypertension a million times.
Yes.
And I think we can go for another million times. So the reason why we really want to focus on this is because there's a thrust throughout the Caribbean, through CARICOM, to really approach this, because there is a big problem. There's a problem with hypertension and other non-communicable chronic diseases in our region. We are the sickest people in the world. We are the sickest people in the world. And sadly, when the CARICOM governments are the one who took the problem we were having with chronic diseases to the UN to ask them to address it. And we haven't really gone far. So what we're doing is addressing all of this again. We're starting over. And salt is one of the things we're looking at. We're going to talk about other things, but the salt is probably our biggest problem, because hypertension and all the complications are the outcomes we have to face. We look at, if you listen to the obituaries tonight, you listen to people's ages. If you die before 70, that is premature death. Hypertension and diabetes, and the combinations there. Have you had the other things like cancers? But they're asking us, the world is asking this population, and we in CARICOM are asking our populations, because of the challenges, to cut down your salt by 30%. It's going to be harder for some people. That means you have to eat 2 packs of corn kernels a week instead of the 8. Right? But not just us. Remember our children. That is an even bigger problem, because we're predisposing them earlier for getting high blood pressure. What does high blood pressure do? It causes you to have strokes, because anywhere water enters, any liquid enters into a closed space under a lot of pressure, it's going to break. It's going to cause damage. You get a stroke because a blood vessel either breaks in your head, or there's a clog, so you can't get oxygen. You can't get oxygen, right? You have a clot, whatever comes there, whether it's a piece of fat, whether it's a blood clot, whatever comes there, and it gets to a point where the artery is so narrow that it can't go beyond that, and there's no oxygen beyond that tissue, the tissue dies. In the same way, if you have blood breaking through it, you know, like when it floods, basically your brain floods. The pressure increases, it causes, it puts pressure on different areas of your brains that often are very important areas, like your area that controls breathing, your area that controls how the rest of your body works, and you die. Or you may not die, you may just have loss of your body functions and become a vegetable forever. Some people get away, they have a mild transient stroke and they come back. But sometimes you get the big one. right? So strokes, heart attacks. For the same reason that your poor little heart can't control that pressure that keeps coming so high because it's coming from outside and all of it is coming to this one central point. Your heart get damaged, your valves get damaged, your heart can't function anymore, you get into heart failure. But you can also have a heart attack or tearing of your valves and all the rest of it. And you can have sudden cardiac death as a result of sudden death caused by diseases of your heart. Often acute death because your pressure is so high. Okay? And of course, your kidneys. So all the blood that pumps out of you, all the blood, the 6 liters of blood that circulates around your body, right, has to go through your kidneys for filtration. Mrs. Browne talked about it trying to get rid of the salt. Your kidney tries your best to keep everything in balance. Whatever excess you have, it tries to get it out. So your body has its metabolic functions, it gets rid of all the toxins. You eat too much salt, you try and spill out some of the salt. Yeah, make you drink water to help to get it out. Your sugar gets too high, you're gonna have a lot of sugar come out in your urine, you're gonna drink a lot of water. But you can also, the high pressure can damage the blood vessels in the kidneys as well. And your kidney can't do that anymore. You're going to have into kidney failure because of elevated blood pressure. All because of salt, which we actually can contain. And like we say, Mrs. Browne is saying to you, no, you don't have to stop eat all salt today. Just cut down on the amount that you eat. You don't start cooking less, but especially concentrating on our children because we're really in trouble as far as our children go. They have become accustomed to eating so much salt that if you remove a little bit, nobody wants the food. But maybe your children could be part of the project. Maybe you can plant a herb garden together. Maybe you can teach your children new ways to prepare meals that does not include all the salt. Maybe we have to have this discussion at home with our children, okay? Maybe we need to talk about it in school and in church and the places that we congregate, that salt is dangerous to us because I'm seeing too many young people dying for reasons that we can't control because most of our chronic diseases are actually controllable. Salt. And you know, the bad thing is that salt is cheap. So it's easy to fling some salt. And remember, you have to think about other sources. I didn't hear you talk about the bouillon cube, Mrs. Browne. The bouillon cube that everybody likes. That should be considered a murderous piece of equipment because it kills off people. Everybody fling 2 bouillon cube in one pot of soup. Plus, you already put salt and salt meat in there. There are other things that can make your food as tasty. That does not include anything with salt. And tastier if you were to try it, you know. So I think the project is for us to start within our homes. I'm concerned also that because our children are home mostly from Corona, and some kids are going to school twice a week, so mommy and daddy leave convenience food, and I understand that they leave convenience food for them to use. Convenience food also being dangerous to our children. There's the high fat, and we're probably going to go into that. I know you're going to go into that after. There's the high fat and the high salt, right? It's easy, it's sweet, it's salty, it's fatty, it tastes nice. Them things make food nice. Fat make it sweet and smooth. The sugar, it's delectable. Salt, gives you that kick. So we have to look at how we treat, how we feed our children in particular, what our children go to school with, what they eat at school, right? One of the things Mrs. Browne forgot to mention is that the sodas and a lot of the food that are in tins and stuff, the preserved foods, all of those things, you turn the box and you see sodium. Next time you buy a soft drink, read it back. And see, there's only one soda, and I won't tell anybody which one it is, that doesn't have sodium. Sodium is a preservative. That's what we use. It's cheap, it lasts, it doesn't spoil, and you put it into your drinks and your tin meat or whatever it is. If you're gonna have beans and peas and carrots and stuff, you have to rinse them out because they're placed in salt. So we have to look for all those sources and all of those hidden sources that seem innocent. I think families have to come together and figure out how are we going to beat this, because we have to do it collectively.
Doc, before we go to our final break, The issue of exercise. You mentioned earlier that when you sweat, the sweat doesn't taste water. So, should I continue using my salt but exercise a lot so I can get rid of it? But you and Ms. Browne can take this one.
I never said that. You're trying to put words in my mouth. I was just saying that you would want to replace with, you would lose your salt that way. So we're talking about that you need to have some salt, right? Because sometimes if you put tips of salt in some water and you have that, you'd find that the muscle cramps go away. But your body tells you when things are not going on well, okay? So that's all I'm saying. Yes, but you need to exercise more. So let's get that settled on national TV.
And unless you're really doing extreme exercise, which most of us are not doing. You probably don't really need to replace any of that sodium that you would have taken in. But I just wanted to mention here too, and I know Dr. Nixon, that's up your alley, that I was reading something today, and it said the World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute of Cancer Research concluded that salt, as well as salted and salty foods, are a probable cause of stomach cancer. I'm not sure. I know cancer is our #1 cause of death in Grenada, but I'm not sure how many cases of stomach cancer that we actually, where is stomach cancer on the spectrum of cancers in Grenada. But I think that is something that we really need to highlight, being that it is our #1 killer.
Yes, and we do have some stomach cancers, but I'll tell you what, I read another article about salt last week as a contributor to cancer. The truth is that our bodies have to do so much adjusting that things will go wrong. We just take in too much of things that we need in really small doses. And remember, our cells are trying to keep our body well, and sometimes they have to overwork, and that can make things go wrong. Like maybe when you take salt in excessive contents, in excessive concentrations, excessive amounts, it becomes a toxin.
Yes.
Right? It's now a poison. It's no longer, you know that thin line between what's good and what's not good? It now becomes a poison. And we consume a lot of salt. The bottom line is that we do consume a lot of salt. Why are people buying artificial drink for their kids that have a whole lot of sodium? That's what makes it taste nice enough, right? When we can, I see mango spoiling. And Mrs. Browne said, eat a mango and drink water. That's juice.
That's right. And you get more satisfaction from eating.
And you get more satisfaction. Plus you get all the pulp, and if you like me and you eat a mango skin, you get roughage and you enjoy yourself. And we don't give our kids mango to go to school. Why not? You can cut up a mango, peel it and put it in a container.
That's right.
A mango free in Grenada. Why not? Aren't we giving our children a bottle of coconut water to take to school instead of a soda? And all of us have coconut tree growing behind our house. At least plant one. Right? We have to find practical ways to beat the maladies that are beating us currently. Because guess what? And I want to raise it because COVID is here, and we saw how much we lost because all of the funding had to go into this national, this global crisis. So there was a lot of money for education and all the other things that we need, like buying medications. Not that there's a shortage of medications, but there are other things. Testing for COVID is expensive. Every time you test somebody, it costs $400 at least, right? So there is a lot of other expenditure. Therefore, the things that we have control over, which is how we eat, or those behaviors, we have to empower ourselves and make sure that us as individuals and families participate in activity and behaviors that make us stay healthy. And we need to teach our children that this is what's going to happen to you. Okay? Because it will. The science is there to show it. And other people who argue, oh, this is guy put 15 pounds of salt in a teaspoon of soup. No. We know, we've seen that ongoing, you continue consuming lots of salt, you will develop hypertension. You take your patients, I take my patients and say, let's cut the salt thing, okay? I am not telling anybody to eat fresh food, ordinary food without salt tomorrow morning. We're not making saraka here, okay? I'm saying, start cutting down, make it just a little different every day, right? Put the green seasonings, really flavor up our foods. Put stuff in it, put a little bit of coconut milk when you're doing the soup. Things that make it flavorful, right? And develop a different palate, but stay well. change the way we behave.
So, Doc, we're going to take our final break. When I come back, I need to have a conversation with Mrs. Browne about foods. So, we take the break and then we'll be right back. Stay with us, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Synatogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
We are all essential in the fight against COVID-19.
At Courts, we're doing our part and we encourage you to stay at home, stay safe, and shop online at www.shopcourts.com.
For added convenience, our Courts online customers will receive free delivery and get up to 20% off televisions, appliances, and homewares. Plus, if you shop with Ready Finance, you will pay nothing down for 60 days. Now, you can stay home, shop online, and save.
Remember, do the essential. Wear a mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing, stop the spread.
Friendly faces, sweet exotic fruits, fresh veggies, local spices. Just what you find when exploring our bustling Grenadian markets on Fridays and Saturdays. That is why GBN, Maggie, and Just Cool Media have teamed up with the Ministry of Works to bring you Maggie Market Vibes. Meet the people that feed us, clothe us, and keep the economy going. Plus, get your Maggie seasonings and other products weekly at the best prices. Maggie Market Vibes, live from markets across the island. Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. on GBN television and social media platforms. Maggie Market Vibes. Your Saturdays are about to be turned up. Fresh from victories in the T20 and ODI series, the West Indies, under the captaincy of Craig Brathwaite, now turn their attention to the two-match test series. It's international cricket, West Indies versus Sri Lanka. First test, March 21st to the 25th, and the second, March 29th to April 2nd. It's cricket, lovely cricket, live on Classic 105.5 and 105.9. The test series, West Indies versus Sri Lanka, is sponsored by Grenada Electricity Services Limited, Spice Isle Imaging Center, and Republic Bank. GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Greetings, this is Eugene Gattuso, and I'm inviting you to join me every Saturday morning from 10 to 12 on K105 starting March 20th as we bring you the brand new program Grenada's Music to the World. We'll be featuring music from all genres by Grenadian artists at home and abroad. If you're a Grenadian artist and would like to get your music featured on the program, please send it to grenadasmusictotheworld@gmail.com. Celebrating our own Saturday mornings 10 to 12 Classic Radio beginning March 20th. See you then.
Welcome back, folks. And in a moment, we'll be opening our telephone line. I know it has been going, but we'll be coming to you in just a moment. Quickly, Doc, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, but I want to speak with Mrs. Browne a little bit. Mrs. Browne, a lot of the things you said are so very important. But as it relates to your organization, if someone needs, let's say, some assistance in, trying to get themselves on a proper diet, all of that, how can your organization assist?
Well, actually, the council offers counseling, nutrition counseling to persons, and it's on a one-on-one basis. We usually ask husbands to bring wives, mothers, mommies, daddies, older mommies and daddies to bring someone in the family who may be actually doing the food preparation. So we like those persons to come in so that they get the information firsthand, because sometimes it's a lot for, for some people to and we try to get in as much as possible because people tend to get results and you don't see or hear from them for a while unless you call to check up and they say, oh, everything is going fine, of course, with the treatment from their physician. So that's an option. But we also do, well, now we are a little scaled back on that. We used to have some sessions, what we call GFNC in the evenings, where people would actually come into the council and participate in food preparation and things like that. We had to scale that back because, of course, of our current situation. So hopefully within another few months or so, we'll be able, at least by next year, let's hope we'll be able to go back to some of those programs. But Godfrey, something I wanted to mention is the salts. We have a lot of different salts on the market.
Right.
And we have a lot of products that would have the particular salt on it. And because it's seen as a healthier salt, people tend to indulge.
Right.
But iodized salt is important because we need iodine. And we need iodine at every stage of life, even from in the stomach.
Right.
For the brain development and so of the baby. So we need to be using iodized salt. But other type of salts we have to bear in mind also has sodium in it. As a matter of fact, sodium in regular table salt and sodium in sea salt, it's about equivalent in terms of weight, the amount of sodium proportion, right? So we have to be mindful that whether sodium comes in sea salt, whether sodium comes in table salt, it comes in a cube, it comes in a dry packet, wherever it comes, it can have the same effect. So people have to be mindful of that. And I know that we look at it. There's one salt, I saw a black salt, which I haven't seen here. I'm not sure if any of the health food stores have it, that has a little less salt. And then there are other things on the market like potassium chloride and so as salt substitutes. But persons who have restrictions on potassium need to be mindful that that is not a product for them.
Okay.
But people can call the council at any time. We make an appointment. We don't see clients every day, so we prefer that people come in by appointment. We don't want you to show up and then no one is there to see you on the day that you're showing up. So give us a call. We're in the book with 440-2126, and we'll be more than happy to assist in whichever way we can. But also we have officers that go to the different health medical stations at different times of the month. So you can always call and we'll allow you to speak to or schedule you or have someone call you back so that you can get the assistance. But we are here to serve the people of Grenada.
Right. One last thing quickly, Mrs. Browne. When someone come in to see you, do they get lunch?
Not yet. We're working on that.
Well, I mean, I was planning on making an appointment for tomorrow because
but the council has some interesting menus on the internet, made of local products and very healthy. So thank you for raising that.
We also have cookbooks and so that people can choose to,
Right, wonderful indeed. So, Doc, I'm going back to you. An issue as it relates to that has to do with the front end labeling. Let's talk a little bit about that because we need to go. The telephone line has been going forever.
I know. So there's a phenomenon called front of package labeling that is going to come online. It really asks manufacturers to indicate the foods that are in excess. So you see like a stop sign, a hexagonal, the 8-sided sign,
octagonal.
But it's a black one and octagonal. Sorry, right? Black with white writing, right? That tells you high in sodium or high in sugar or high in fat. So people could pick up a package and say, oh, no, this is, instead of, going to the back of the label and looking for how much it is, it jolts you to recognize that, no, this is really high in salt, I shouldn't have this. Or this is high in sugar, or it might have more than one, high in sugar, high in fats, high in, high in sugar, high in salt, high in fats.
High in fat.
Right, and it indicates that there is trans fats in the product, right? So you need to know how to make choices. It is important because what we've seen in the countries like Chile and some other Latin American countries where this is already applied, that people take heed. And if we teach our children to identify foods that have certain things that are not good for them, especially now that, again, we're working towards curbing childhood obesity, a child goes and see that this has a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of sugar, and a lot of fats and stuff. You say, Mommy, no, this one has the black sign that says too much sugar for me, or there's too much salt. Can we find something else? Hopefully the alternative would be a natural alternative, like buying a fruit or something else, right? But we come with front of package labeling. You're going to see it in the market a lot in the future because it's really to remind us that we have to make good choices. Good choices for our families, especially for our children, and good choices for ourselves, of course, as adults.
Wonderful. So let's go to the telephone line right away. Let's see who is with us. Well, we lost that call. We probably waited a little too long. The number is 435-2041. Let's try again. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I did not get the beginning of the medical and talk. However, I heard about salt. How safe it is to use Himalayan salt?
Lydia.
Okay, caller, thank you very much. Mrs. Browne?
I heard Himalayan salt. I didn't really hear the rest of it.
How safe is it to use Himalayan salt?
Himalayan salt also has sodium in it. The thing is that those salts tend to taste a little differently because it's not just sodium and chloride. They will have traces of iron, traces of zinc, traces of different nutrients in it, so you get a different flavor. But it doesn't mean that there's no sodium in it. So we have to be careful with that. And also, most of those salts do not contain any significant amount of iodine. And iodine we need in order to support our thyroid function.
Yes, indeed. So, folks, the number 435-2041. You have any questions you would like to ask? You can do so. Let's go back to a telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Pleasant good night, my dear.
Good evening, sir. Go ahead, please.
Well, I am hypertensive, and right now I'm suffering with my foot from the knee going back down to the back of my foot, all the ankles, it starts soothing. It's happening about a fortnight now, and I don't know what is the cause of that.
I'm sorry, don't hang up. What did he say was happening to the knee and to the foot?
It's
swollen.
Or start getting swollen?
Yeah, from the knee going back down to the back of the foot.
Is it both your feet? Both of them?
No. It's not broken.
She's asking you if both legs are swollen.
Yeah, from the knee going back down to the back of my foot.
Two of them?
Yeah, both foot.
So
someone is telling me it could be kidney, I don't know.
Well, swelling of the feet could be just. Some people get swelling of their feet because of how they keep their leg hanging down. They have basic, simple circulatory problem. But if you have high blood pressure that's uncontrolled, you need to make sure, or it's been uncontrolled over any prolonged period. You have to start thinking, is my heart functioning well? Because that's one of the other reasons. And of course, your kidneys, they were quite correct. And like I said, that uncontrolled hypertension can also lead to poor kidney function. So I would advise you to go see your doctor.
Thank you ever so much, my lady, and you all have a blessed day. And it's a loving program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, caller. Thanks a lot indeed. The telephone number is 435-2041. Please call and you can share your questions, and we will try and answer you as best as possible. And folks, just to let you know, Dr. Nixon, she operates from the Bruce Street Mall. You can visit her there. Remember, she cannot diagnose you on the phone, so you'd have to go to see her. And of course, you can also contact the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council if you need some counseling. They will guide you along. Their number is 440-2126. All right, so please take advantage of that. Your health is important, so let's not wait. Let's go back to a telephone. Doctor in call, good evening. Hello.
Good night.
Yes, good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good night. This iodized salt and the Himalayan salt, is it extracted naturally, ordinarily from the earth in a natural way, or is it man put it together? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. So he's asking you. Yeah, he's asking if the iodized salt and the Himalayan salt, if they are extracted from the earth naturally, or if it's man that put them there.
No, no, those are natural. Those are natural salts. The iodine is actually added to the regular table salt. But the Himalayan salt is just a salt that comes from a particular region.
Okay, all right. Okay, so caller, we hope that that answers your question.
You can get the salt from either extracting it, like evaporating the water from the, they have salt ponds and you get the salt.
Like down in South, right?
Right, and they will add some kind of anti-caking agent so that it's, you can pour the salt as opposed to it clogging into pieces.
All right, wonderful indeed. 435-2041. That's the number you can call, and you can ask your questions, and so we can try and answer you as much as we can. Doc, I want to ask you a question. When you mentioned about strokes, all right, and you mentioned the blood vessels, breaking in the head or in the brain or something like that. Is there any particular reason? I mean, for all parts of your body, why your brain did that blood vessel choose to go and break?
Because your brain is actually in a closed space already. So think about it. There isn't a lot of give.
Right.
There isn't a lot of give, right? And then in relation to clots, remember that the blood vessel, they get smaller and smaller. The further they go from the heart, they get tinier and tinier. So if you have a little clot and it gets up into the brain, it can cause that challenge. But there's no give. There's no way to...
Right, no, I understand. Let's go back to our telephone.
But that's not going to happen to you, right?
No, not at all. Doctor in call, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, can you turn the volume of your radio down, please? Yeah.
That's a very lovely program. I'm enjoying it very much. But one thing I would like to say, you all could make it, instead of like on occasion like Doctor on Call, I could make it a program so that you have a special day every week or every other week that this information could be disseminated to the people of the country. Because there are a lot of people who right now, not instead of listening to the radio, they are watching the TV or something and they're not listening to that information. And it's so vital, important for us, for our health in this nation. Right now, I'm so overjoyed to listening to that program that I just want to move an inch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
And that's an interesting point, you know.
Yeah, but just for information, apparently the program is aired every Tuesday evening, caller. It's on radio, it's on television, it's on Facebook, and it's also on YouTube. So unless you missed it, but we're on every Tuesday evening. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because people don't know they can get this information from their doctors or from the health center. Mm-hmm. You know, you can go to your health center and all of this information is there. You want any information, like Mrs. Browne said, any information you need on dietary counseling on any disorders, you can call and ask for information from them. And there's no cost for that, okay? I mean, there's the Ministry of Health has pamphlets and stuff that will offer to people. And, you know, people can ask in their communities, in their community-based organizations, in their churches, ask the ministry to ask somebody to come talk, because we have to keep talking. And I say every time, for 2,000 years, how many thousands of years you've been using the Bible, and your minister used the same Bible last week and use it next week, because you have to keep reminding people. We have to keep on reminding people. And that is what these programs are about, to keep on giving information and reminding people. The same information, different ways, but we keep reminding people that you need to take it.
Right. Let's get back to our telephone. Doctor in call, good evening. Well, we lost that one again. 435-2041. You can try back, caller. And of course, you can ask your question or whatever contribution you would like to make to the program. Let's try again. Doctor in call, good evening. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead, please, caller.
Doctor, if you don't have pressure, but if you have a problem with your teeth, like you're gargling your mouth with salt water and salt water slip into the throat, can that develop pressure, high blood pressure?
Okay, thank you, caller. You know, this is very...
First of all, I don't think if you're gargling, you really should just gargle with you should just barely taste the salt. That's the first thing. And of course, once you put it into your mouth, there's some absorption that's going to happen, especially under your tongue. All those little things you see under your tongue is a place that stuff is absorbed through. So if you put your medication under there, it's going to get absorbed through there because the blood vessels are there. But you really should gargle with a taste of salt. You should just barely taste the salt because it does the work it has to do. Okay, just a little salt in the water. So be careful. And we're talking about taking salt every day in more than amounts that you need. Yeah, you can get a little bit in there. When you go to the beach, well, I guess it meant that we couldn't go to the beach because we go to the beach and there's so much water that gets into our mouth and our nostrils and gets into our system. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about just consuming salt in your diet every day, morning, noon, and night. And some of us, we're talking about having 5 grams of salt, right? Which is a teaspoon, a level teaspoon. There's some people who consume 12 and 13. That is, 12 is probably the average for some countries. So it means that there are people consuming 16 and people consuming 10, right? Yeah. So we are consuming a lot. And you think about it, if you sit down to eat 2 teaspoons of salt by itself, it's going to be impossible. But sometimes we spread it out all day in the things that we eat. When we really need to eat, we're not saying you have to eat 5 grams. We're saying don't go beyond that.
That's right.
We're saying that's a safe place, right? So you don't have to make sure, hey, I'm having this teaspoon. The doctor says, we say 5 grams or less, preferably less. You don't have to take naught, but preferably less than 5 grams. 5 grams is where the safe point is. The science is showing that people who consume over 5 grams a day are at greater risk, have a bigger chance of having high blood pressure. And I'm saying maybe your mom had it and maybe your dad have it, you don't have to have it. And if nobody else has it, then you shouldn't have it at all because you should take precautions.
All right, let's get back to a telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening, Godfrey. How you doing, brother?
Yes, good evening.
Long time I hear, man. Godfrey.
Yes, my brother.
I want to ask you, Doc, about reheating oil. When we heat our oil to fry chicken and stuff like that. What is the danger of reheating oil? What is the danger of that?
Okay.
Well, I'm going to let Lydia answer this as well, but I want to tell you, first of all, a lot of the oils that we use to fry have trans fats, which is dangerous. I know that reheating oil can create some toxins to develop in the oil, so we probably shouldn't eat it. Then, I mean, if you have enough oil left to fry more, you're probably frying too much. Okay, so I think the other ways to prepare our foods. Mrs. Browne spoke about putting a little oil on your butternut squash. Mm-hmm. That's just to keep it, for the suppleness. But we really fry a little too much, and so maybe if you have to reheat your oil, because I know some of the oils disintegrate and they can become toxic, you probably shouldn't be doing that. Lydia, can you make any further?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are some studies that would have shown that the properties of the oil change. I've actually seen one study recently that indicated that the reheating of the oil can actually be creating carcinogens, which are cancer-causing properties being created in the oil. It was also thought that reheating the oil can also create trans fats. And so the thing is that when we use oil in the home, we may not use as much, but we have a lot of persons who earn their living by frying. And the amount of, if you put 5 gallons of oil in a pan, you're not going to throw it out every night to replace it the next day to fry again. But people have to be mindful that sometimes some people go way overboard in terms of the length of time that they use that oil and the different things that are being fried maybe in the same oil. So you may have chicken frying in that oil, and then you have bakes frying in the same oil, and so you're getting a good dose of whatever you can possibly get. And when you pass by some places and you smell the oil, you know to yourself, this is time for that oil to change, right? I've seen a study that someone did. It was a PhD student, I think, in maybe India or one of those countries, that actually showed using the bagasse from the sugar cane. He was showing that putting that into the oil somehow takes out some of the toxic effect, I guess, from the, I'm not sure, it was just his research, and I haven't seen anything else in that regard, but it's something that we can probably start looking into, because we know that that's the way people are making their living here. Also, the types of oils that we use, some of them, because they have more of the what we call omega-6 fatty acids as opposed to the omega-3 fatty acids, which most of our vegetable oils will have more omega-6s than omega-3s, and we're consuming a lot of these fried foods. And omega-6s are known to be what we call pro-inflammatory, pro meaning for, and inflammatory, inflammation. So we have to look at all these different factors and know that eating an exorbitant amount of fried food, some people have it every day, is never going to be recommended from any standpoint of health.
Okay, wonderful. As you mentioned this, I was hoping that you didn't say too much, because Mrs. Browne and Dr. Nixon, inviting you back next week and the following week, and I'll tell you why. Because next week I want us to speak on sugars, and the following week I would like us to speak on fats, because I think these 3 items, the salts, the sugars, and the fats, they contribute a lot to serious health issues, and there's a lot we can talk about. So I don't want to leave salt all by its lonesome. They need some company, so we're going to talk the sugars and the fats as well. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this evening. So let me start.
I have something I need to mention.
Sure, definitely. So I would give you, yes. Mm-hmm.
I just want to mention that both Dr. Nixon and myself are a part of an advocacy group here in Grenada, which is the National Chronic Non-Communicable Disease Commission. And although we are in our own capacities, we are also here representing that entity. It's an advisory body to the Ministry of Health. So we advise the ministry in terms of the management of chronic non-communicable disease. However, in recent times, we have been taking on some active roles in working with the schools and different activities to try to assist our nation in improving the chronic non-communicable disease prevention and management.
Right, so you just gave me an idea. So that's a 4th week. That means you'd have to come back again.
No, they have other people, you know. They have lots of other people. Don't fool yourself.
Well, no,
I'm glad for what both of you have said. I'm going to go through this quickly because we, like I said to you earlier, we are about to embark on awareness and the whole front of label packaging stuff for our population, and it's going to be fats, salt, and carbs and something else, but definitely fat, salt, and sugars. Carbohydrates being sugars and starches. So, as is the next 6 weeks, this campaign is going to be on. So I think this is going to be a good coincidence, and of course the Chronic Disease Commission would be happy. 2 agencies are actually being the advocates for this front of label packaging because obesity is what we're fighting. Obesity, especially obesity in children. Mm-hmm. And we know that obesity is one of the biggest factors leading not only to hypertension and diabetes, but also to cancers. So here, as we're my other cap as Cancer Society, we also working on this whole awareness as to getting accustomed to what is in my food, especially our children need to be able to say, Mommy, do not buy this. I'd rather have something else. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, we talk about fertility. I hear if you plant something on a bottle in grenade, on a bottle it grows because grenade is so fertile. So we know that we can plant and we have to encourage. And we know also in fighting whatever diseases, this is a multi-sectoral thing. The Ministry of Agriculture comes in, finance, everybody, community-based groups, you know, they have different parish development organizations. This is everybody's business because the truth is, we're going to lose our young population. We're going to bury our kids and our grandkids if we don't address this problem now.
Right. Dr. Nixon, Mrs. Browne, I thank you all so very much. And
thank you.
And I'm all excited, so I'm looking forward next week to talking about sugars. I know it's going to be another bumper one. I would definitely tell you all about the Facebook views that I'm seeing here. So we know that we are reaching the people. We need to continue, as Dr. Nixon said, to inform and to give information so people can become aware and so take the necessary action to lengthen their lives. Again, thank you very much, ladies, and do have a good night. I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday at 8:30.
Thank you and good night.
Good night, good night, and thanks everybody for listening.
All the best. So that's our program this evening, folks. We thank you so very much for staying with us. We thank Dr. Nixon and Mrs. Browne for sharing such pertinent information, you know, and we need to start taking action because once we do, you'll be lengthening your life, and we know how beautiful life is. So let's continue. Until tomorrow, do have yourself a good evening. All the best.